This week, I'm in the capital, city of Tshwane, and more widely known as Pretoria. For those who do not know, Pretoria is the administrative capital of South Africa, serving as the seat of the executive branch of government and as the host to all foreign embassies to the country. Pretoria, funny enough, was founded in 1855 by Martinus Pretorius, a leader of the Voortrekkers, and the later became the first president of a South African republic. This is now the apartheid South African Republic. He named this after his dad, Andries Pretorius. What a sweet story. This city is home to the Tshwane University of Technology, which is TUT, the University of Pretoria, the University of South Africa, the Council for Scientific and Industrial Research, and the Human Science Research Council. It also hosts the National Research Foundation, the South African Bureau of Standards. It is the home to the South African Reserve Bank, the Innovation Hub, the Public Investment Corporation, which is the biggest fund manager on the African continent, and the Technology Innovation Agency. In many ways, Pretoria can be regarded as the innovation capital of South Africa. Welcome back to Core, Confessions of a Recovering Entrepreneur, a place where we strip down, or at least away, the hype, the highlight reels, and the overnight success stories to talk about what it really takes to build something meaningful. Today's topic is discipline, not motivation, not hustle porn, not some fleeting burst of inspiration, but discipline. The quiet, relentless engine that turns a spark of an idea into a living, breathing venture. This week, I was looking for notes that I'm convinced till this day I made in 2008. So I had to go through some of my notebooks, the ones I have on hand, and occasionally had to ask my wife to take pictures of pages of the notebooks that she has at home with her. Looking at all the years of note-taking and volumes of books accumulated, filled with specific meetings, notes on outcomes, feelings I may have over a particular deal, and ideas I had at the time, all these show hopes that make up a life lived and a career in venture. I was therefore motivated to share some of the thoughts on the power of discipline and the lessons that have carried me to who I am today. Because within these notes, I was able to recognize the human I used to be, the outlook I used to have, and the thinking pattern that I used to use. That, thankfully enough, has changed. I think with age, growth, discipline, and wisdom, you have a tendency of evolving, and I hope I have evolved. But within those notes, one can trace back to when certain changes happened. And also I can recognize the young man I was there and the kind of foolish ideologies I had. And this is all that influenced me to want to have this conversation with you. And hopefully spark something in you. So I remember when I first started out, I would wake up 3 o'clock in the morning, 3 a.m., fueled by nothing but caffeine and delusion, convinced that sheer willpower would carry me to the finish line. Spoiler alert, it never did. Because willpower fades, motivation is a fair weather friend, but discipline is the bedrock, the non-negotiable. This is the critical factor that separates thriving startups from those that fizzle out. Discipline is the thing that keeps us showing up when the excitement wears off and the road gets lonely. Today, we'll be drawing a lot of our thoughts and discussion from a book written by Charles Duhigg called The Power of Habit. In order to break down these lessons and apply them to early stage enterprise, our founders can use some of these lessons in order to build the right routines to sustain long-term growth. This has been the bedrock of my behavior over the last 8 years, and I hope some of these lessons resonate with you and are able to help you along. So, if you ever struggle or have struggled in the past with consistency, motivation, or just keeping your startup on track, this episode might just be for you. Firstly, let's talk about something that Mr. Duhigg refers to as the habit loop, and also why discipline starts with small wins. So, in The Power of Habit, Duhigg introduces the habit loop, which consists of 3 phases: the cue, the routine, and then the reward. This loop is the foundation of discipline. For early stage founders, the key is to engineer habits that lead to small wins, because those small wins build momentum. So, it behooves you, to identify keystone habits. What's the one habit that, if mastered, will keep everything else easy or will make everything else easier? This could be daily prioritization of something. It could be tracking how much time you spend on social media or whatever. And in so understanding it and tracking it, you are able to maintain it, manage it, improve on it, or decrease it, depending on what kind of habit that it is. In many ways, this is similar to all the matrix that investors would need to know when you raise capital. Have the discipline to track and keep on tracking the keystone elements of your business as you develop, as you grow, and even when you are a big business. Keep on tracking in order to improve. You know, they always say start tiny. And I remember as an early 20 entrepreneur, that for me sounded like, yeah, that sounds stupid. Why would I want to start tiny? I want to be big. And we forget that even companies like Alphabet were not always Alphabet. Before it was Alphabet, it was Google. Before it was Google, it was just 2 guys trying to make the internet make sense. starting small. So let's not fall into the trap of looking around at what is available and want to build, but let us rather produce value for the customer base that we've identified, starting small. And this also translates to discipline, because discipline isn't about grand gestures, it's about consistent action. Instead of I'll work for 12 hours a day, try I'll spend 30 minutes every morning planning my top 3 tasks. You do those 3 tasks and you execute them on a daily basis consistently, and you will see the momentum that you'll pick up. In the book, The Richest Man in Babylon by George S. Clason, he shares a story of a man who decided to throw 1 stone over the bridge daily as he walked over. Just 1, daily. What most of us would do is to remain consistent for 5 to 10 days. Then we would falter. This simple task would become unbearable. Where would you start where you would actually start negotiating with yourself, saying, not today, I'll throw 2 stones tomorrow. This is where you lose discipline and your ability to follow through. And most importantly, you lose the opportunity to build the habit. And this happens to all of us. And I think the biggest thing one needs to do is just be anal about your focus on the small tasks. And that helps you get through them. Then once you are going about it, start rewarding your progress. Celebrate the small wins to reinforce the habit loop. For example, after hitting a milestone, take a moment to reflect before rushing to the next task. This becomes even more important in venturing. Celebrate your wins. I don't mean having blowout parties, binge drinking till 3 in the morning, but take the time to acknowledge the progress and the development that is happening. Pat yourself on the back. Pat your team members on the back. Because it's important that you recognize that you are progressing. Because small wins are a steady application of a small advantage. Once a small win has been accomplished, forces are set in motion that favor another small win. And this is when you start building momentum. Let's talk a little bit about willpower and what willpower really is. Mr. Duhigg calls willpower the single most important keystone habit for success. But here's the catch. Willpower is like a muscle. It gets depleted, but can also be strengthened. Some actionable advice for founders and founding teams to think about is, before you scale, before you can innovate, before you can even think about growth, you need systems. Not fancy tools, no viral moments, systems. The boring stuff, the daily rituals that feel insignificant but compound over time. This allows you to pre-commit to routines because you reduce the decision fatigue by automating your habits. For instance, having fixed work blocks when you schedule deep focus time. One area most entrepreneurs do not put emphasis on is scheduled breaks and time for reflection. These are as important as your active building tasks. They too need a disciplined mind to ensure that you adhere to them. Build a support system. Discipline is contagious. Surround yourself with a team or mentor group that reinforces good behavior. As the adage says, you are known by the company you keep. Even in hiring, you will need to find those people who will complement the disciplined nature you wish to bring to the business. But more on that a little bit later. Prepare for cravings. As mentioned before, humans have a tendency to let our motivation and subsequently our discipline wane. So when motivation dips, rely on the preset rules. Starbucks popularized a very interesting tool for turning negative customer experience into positive ones. And we can take that tool even into venturing for doing the same thing with customers, but also applying it with investors. And the principle is called latte method, as in the coffee, latte. Starbucks coffee made sense. But in any case, the latte method, LATTE, the L stands for listen. Pay close attention to the customer or the investor. Listen to their issues and listen actively so you can understand their concerns and desires. The A stands for acknowledge. Verbally confirm that you understand the problem and from the customer's perspective or from the investor's perspective. First T is take action. Immediately work to resolve the issue by demonstrating a commitment to fixing the problem. The second T, which is thank. Express gratitude to the customer or investor for bringing the issues or having thoughts or input on what you've delivered, even if their input was negative, because it helps you iterate much better next time. Then the E, which is encourage. End the interaction on a positive note, perhaps by encouraging the customer or to return or to offering them a solution that builds on loyalty or an opportunity to revert back to them when you have improved or have a new iteration of the product. All of this in order for you to be able to get through the negative feelings and have the discipline to keep on going through. All in all, this tool can assist entrepreneurs in better navigating a habit loop for handling stressful situations such as uncooperative customers or rejection from potential investors. Because all of these are not the end of the world. It's just building blocks that allow you to develop further as you grow. Now, changing a bit of thoughts, let's speak on the role of company culture in sustaining discipline. Discipline isn't just personal, it's cultural. Startups that build habit-aligned cultures outperform those relying on sheer hustle. And in that lies the secret in building great ventures. Systems are put in place that govern operations instead of feelings, and hustle that is erratic and inconsistent. Remember the rule of one. If you consistently, on a daily basis, improve by just 1%, you will outperform any competitor in the market. You don't need to be flashy, you just need to be consistent. You may ask, how does one instill disciplined habits in a team? Well, here are a few things to consider. Firstly, define clear cues. Clarity of action and intent help teams understand what is expected. It helps people work well within a framework and allows them to thrive with expressed knowledge of the rules of the game. For example, you could institute weekly no meeting Wednesdays for deep work. This allows everyone in the organization to know that, you know what, on a Wednesday, we kick ass here. Nobody has any meetings, we are just pushing through. You could have like a Friday stand-up meeting. Everyone knows, on a Friday we give each other feedback. But the consistency and the clearness of it is what makes you develop further. In many ways, clear cues also allow for a decreased rate of actively disengaged staff members. So one could ask, what is actively disengaged staff members? These are frequently people who have open expressions of dissatisfaction. They tend to undermine colleagues in severe situations. They even undermine the leadership. They have negative impact on the culture and are prone to potential sabotage. And as an entrepreneur, building a business and bringing people on board, you need to be very careful and very selective on who you bring on board, because every single person will have an impact on the culture of the business as well as the outcomes of the business. I'm not going to go into theory, where they say A grade people should hire other A grade people. And once A grade people start hiring B grade people, then you're going to find that next in your business, you've got C, D, and E grade people. That has some merit and truth to it. But ultimately, you need a greater variety of people for different tasks. What I've come to learn in life is that if someone is truly motivated, excited, understands their role, and is remunerated fairly, they tend to do their tasks quite well. You might not need an A-grade admin person. You need a person who can do the work consistently, actively every time. Because in some disciplines, you don't need innovative thinkers. You need people to do. So I'm a little bit at odds on that. But it is very important that you ensure that whoever you bring on board into your business does not negatively impact the culture, cohesion, and the way upon which the business's routines and disciplines are structured. Secondly, make routines obvious. Use shared tools. Use things like Slack, Trello, track progress. We work on Google Workspace and all the things that it offers in order to track and be able to stay in touch and to being with routines and consistent and all of those things. You can do the same. Thirdly, align rewards with values. This is probably the most important. As the great Charlie Munger once said, show me the incentives and I'll show you the outcome. People want recognition, ownership, and growth opportunities. This is this all contributes to creating a culture that reinforces disciplined behavior. For people act in accordance to what is being rewarded. If the incentive structure is towards bad behavior, people will act accordingly. If it is steeped towards good and desired behavior of discipline and consistency, and then that is what people will do, for they will be incentivized to retain that status quo. Lastly, how does one break bad habits and therefore pivoting before it's too late? Many startups fail because they don't replace bad habits fast enough. Maybe it's procrastination, it could be reactive decision making, or even something as simple as ignoring customer feedback. Again, Mr. Duhigg's research shows that you can't erase a habit, but you can surely, and you must by all means, replace it. Similarly, breaking bad habits in a venture requires conscious effort and strategic approaches. It involves identifying problematic behaviors, understanding their triggers, and replacing them with positive, productive alternatives. Pivoting is, in some instances, the only way by which you can cleave to relevance and stay on the course of building a sustainable business offering customers value. Discipline isn't about grinding harder, it's about building smarter habits. Whether you're a solo founder or leading a team, the principles from this book, which is The Power of Habit, can help you create a business that thrives on consistency and not on chaos. Maybe as a final thought, this week, pick one keystone habit, something small but impactful, and track it daily. And let me know how it goes. See how your venture understanding and discipline changes. If you enjoyed this episode, share it with other fellow founders. And don't forget to subscribe for more and deep dives on startup psychology, execution, business development, innovation, and other crazy things that make us tick while we build our businesses. This is Yongama Skweyiya signing off. This has been such a great pleasure to share my thoughts with you. Until next time, let's keep the core strong.